rough time of the day, night, to be doing another live stream. Now here we go. This probably will be the last one for today. Today is September 14th, 2017. Did I say September? December 14th, 2017. Oh no, it hasn't been a long day. I'm Roy Potter. You're at the Potter Expositor. And yes, I'm going to give a little summary of this leak that came out from the BLM Whistleblower. That's what this is about. Hi, everybody. I know this has been kind of a rough ride the last couple of days, a lot of crazy things happening. And when you're getting information really quick and you're trying to, balance that with other things, sometimes little mistakes happen. And the major one today, of course, as you know, was that when the people that obtained the Wooten paperwork, the Wooten whistleblowers document, they looked at it and they didn't know the difference between an FBI agent and a BLM agent. So we were saying it was an FBI agent. It was not. And I've already corrected that on my other two videos today. It is a BLM agent, okay, which is actually better in a lot of ways because if it had been an FBI agent, that individual would not have been internal to the BLM to be able to really give us, accurate information about what was happening. So in fact, it turned out pretty well. But before we get started, I want to make sure the sound is okay. I can see kind of the picture is sort of okay. I know you're going to complain about the green background. We'll just have to make do, I'm afraid. Okay, with this camera, I can't have a contrasted background. It won't focus right. It just won't. It's a Motorola, so I don't know if that has anything to do with it or not. Okay. Again, hello everyone. I'm going to go ahead and get started so that we can get this done. This might take some time, and I don't ever like to be verbose, but I always end up being. And there's a lot of incredible information here. So let me go back again. Basically, what's happened is that. Oh, by the way, and people that were afraid that us talking about these whistleblowers would endanger them, let me tell you, okay, that the agencies already know who they are. So it's not like they did it in secret, which is really interesting with this at DHS Whistler that I was telling you about, right? Because that individual or that group of individuals that are on that Twitter site were saying that they needed to protect their identities. Now, maybe they're additional whistleblowers. Maybe, this whole thing has opened the door for a lot of government agents and government officials and government bureaucrats to come out and start talking about these things. So I'm not totally disregarding that Twitter site, but the fact of the matter is that as far as this BLM whistleblower, the BLM, the FBI, the DOJ already knew about this because he gave them this information and was known as a whistleblower and asked for whistleblower protection months ago. Okay, so we're not endangering Agent Wooten here, okay? Just so that you know. And that was one of the first things, of course, I was concerned with. But the fact of the matter is that this is all information, again, that the agencies had at their disposal. They know who he is, and they've known who he is. He wasn't ever trying to hide the fact. He just finally went outside of his chain of command because the BLM wouldn't do anything about the problems he was discussing. And all of this has to do with the Bundy situation in Nevada, okay, pretty much. All right, so let me get into it. The information that I told you about on Redoubt News and Sherry Diwali, you can't find it at Redoubt News on their website. It's not there yet. I suspect they'll probably have it tomorrow or the next day. But where it is on Facebook. And after I upload this, I'll go into the description box and I'll put the address, okay, the link for the Facebook page. And I don't even have Facebook. I had to get this from somebody else, okay? So I wouldn't want Facebook, frankly. Twitter's bad enough as far as I'm concerned, and YouTube. But that link I will put in the description box, but it's going to be after we're done here. It takes, some time for the processing to occur to upload it to YouTube as a video to watch, as a recorded video. And so it'll be some time after it gets up, at least a few minutes after it actually posts there, for me to get the information in the description box. But it is going to be at Redoubt News on Facebook. That's where it is. And when you go on that Facebook page, you go down and you look for it's a video that Shea did interviewing Representative Matt Shea up in Washington State. And it says, breaking news, special report from Washington Representative Matt Shea, the smoking gun. Okay, something like that. There are like 3 videos there, and I'm not sure why there are 3 of them, but anyway, that's where you'll go to find it. The recording is kind of hard to hear for the first 2 minutes, but then after that, Shea adjusts the volume, and it's just fine. So don't get upset when you can't hear it really well the first couple of minutes or so. She fixes that, okay? And the video is about 23 minutes long, okay? All right. Well, let's get into it. Wow. I was sent the document that Special Agent, BLM Special Agent Larry Wooten submitted to several places. It's gone throughout the government now. And I would not doubt at this point if people in the White House already know about it. As a matter of fact, I have reason to believe that it was because of Larry Wooten revealing what he did that Judge Navarro allowed the Bundys to leave, okay, if they wanted to. I know Cliven decided to stay in behind bars as a protest, but Ryan Bundy got out, and I'm not sure if Ammon did or not. I'm not really sure right now. But at any rate, they did have the opportunity for pretrial release. These documents are the reason why. I'm certain of that. So again, it's not something that the courts and the agencies and all that don't know about, and no doubt it's gone up the line, and some thou shalt do this kind of things have happened coming back down the other way. So let me get into it. It's about an 18-page document, and this is on top of the other things that we've already talked about, okay? I think there is another whistleblower, and so there's more stuff than I'm even going to give you here. But I think you'll be very interested in this. Up front, Wooten doesn't pull any punches, okay? He's pretty fair. He says that the BLM was doing not just corrupt actions that didn't follow policy, but actually broke the law, okay? And hid evidence, okay? And for all of those who are arguing about the snipers, he talks about the snipers. Uh-oh. Okay? But he's fair. He does say that Bundy, stepped outside of the proper channels for taking care of this. And he says that many of the demonstrators, and he's probably talking about the ones that were pointing weapons or at least the BLM said were pointing weapons at the BLM officers. That was improper. You don't do that. That is an assault. But mind you, there were mitigating circumstances even in that. But he doesn't really go there in this document. But he does say that the events that led up to the 12th there at the corrals, there was so much exculpatory evidence for these for the defendants that all of it, so much of it has been suppressed. Okay, he doesn't say the court, by the way. That's kind of interesting. He says it's the BLM itself, and of course the FBI and the Department of Justice, the U.S. Attorney's Office. That's kind of the summation of what's going on here. Okay, so this is going to take a few minutes, as usual. I never get to do anything in a short time, although the ones today were pretty short. Okay. Like I said, it's about 18 pages long, and where the real meat comes, in the first 3 pages, it's kind of like an introduction of who he is and his background and what he was doing there. He was the chief investigator in this whole Bundy roundup thing, okay? And he saw all of these things happening in the BLM, particularly to do with the supervisors. Dan Love, Special Agent in Charge Dan Love. Well, one of the things in here just about blew my socks off. I'm not sure it has really anything to do with the case. It just shows Dan Love's mindset, I guess is how I'd say it. Okay, and that's going to be the first thing I'm going to talk about. On page 4 of this document, okay, it's yes, he is a patriot. This is the type of man, and there are women too, of course, but this is the type of person that we need in these agencies that'll do the right thing. You know, you're going to call it the way it really is. You're not going to try to railroad somebody, okay? And I know good police officers like that, but unfortunately, and the BLM aren't police officers, even if they wish they were, they're not. I'm not even certain that they're really law enforcement officers in the pure sense of the word. And you've heard me talk about that. But I know good police officers, good law enforcement officers, but they're becoming more and more difficult to really find. So anyway, let's get started. Page 4. The first thing that shot out at me here. Ladies, you might want to hold your ears again. This is really crazy. Special Agent in Charge Dan Love sent photos of his feces and his girlfriend's vagina to coworkers and subordinates. Does that tell you the mindset of this guy? And of course, he also goes and he talks about his ego and that he wanted to push this whole Bundy thing in a militaristic manner. They even say that in here. Okay, he admits on page 4 also that the BLM agents abused Dave Bundy without cause, okay? And basically from all of that, he doesn't get into the details, but the false arrest, the false imprisonment, along with the unlawful use of force. On page 4, he also talks about the BLM and their unprofessional, actually illegal, monitoring of jail calls, between, the person that's there in jail and their spouse, that kind of thing. Now, you can listen in, and maybe things have changed a little bit, but the way it used to work for when I was there was that you'd listen for a couple of seconds and make sure that the conversation isn't on something illegal, and then you'd have to leave, and then you could come back at a set time or whatever. It's kind of like a random stop, when you're doing a roadblock kind of thing. But anyway, so that's what they were doing there. He mentions on page 4 also that the agency protected Dan Love in all of these unscrupulous, corrupt things that he was doing. Okay, he says it right there, and he has all the evidence. I'm not going to go through all the bits and pieces because it's an 18-page document, and it would take us all night to go through it and really discuss it. So we're just doing this little summary. On page 5, he discusses the plan by the BLM to shoot the protesters. They had decided on that even before they arrived at the corrals, okay, on I-15. And it kind of goes on. He does talk about a kill list in here, but it's not quite the way this one that we were talking about before. It's about Dan Love's personal kill list, not the hit list later that we're kind of discussing on what's going on. They did select that they were going to take out the Bundys under this situation that was orchestrated by Dan Love. So they were talking about shooting the protesters right up front. On page 5 also, Love ignored the U.S. Attorney's Office, and at first I thought he was going to start defending. I thought Wooten was going to start defending the Attorney's Office, but he's really not doing that. He's just giving a really good, comprehensive summary. And he says, Love ignored the U.S. Attorney's Office, and let's see if I can put this in a way that'll make sense. And also the Nevada state officials. Okay, so basically he ignored the U.S. Attorney's Office and the Nevada state officials, so that this is Love again, so that he could cause the most intrusive, oppressive, large scale, and key word here, like I've always said, and militaristic operation impound. In his own words, just like I said, just from my observations of what happened there. He talks about excessive use of force. civil rights violations, and policy violations. This is all on page 5 of this document. He talks about an improper cover-up by the administrators, by the supervisors, in every matter to do with the Bundy Ranch. Whoa. Also on page 5, he says the BLM was not keeping the U.S. Attorney's Office up to date on substantive and exculpatory findings. And I'll just add in here so that you don't worry about it. He does talk about the U.S. Attorney's Office doing the same thing, okay? And of course, we know that they've done that. The DOJ, the U.S. Attorney's Office has as well, not just the BLM and the court itself, because this document, this witness, was sealed up so that, you know, even the defense attorneys could get it, but they couldn't bring, and they had to ask for it. They had to specifically ask for it because the DOJ wasn't going to give it to them, the U.S. Attorney's Office. So they got that, but then the judge said they couldn't bring it into the court as part of the defense. Okay, you see how that worked with her? Okay, agents were, this is really critical here. The BLM does not have arrest authority, okay? It's almost like a citizen's arrest authority. That's about what it's like. The arrest authority has to reside in the local sheriff or law enforcement, okay? And right with the Dave Bundy arrest, they violated that. And so this says right here on page 6 that the agents were ordered not to make arrests, but they did, okay? So the upper people, not Dan Love, but the upper people knew what the requirements were, but Dan Love just pushed it. He got it outside of the lawful parameters here. The supervisors, the BLM supervisors, and this includes Love, took Wooten's evidence, the evidence that he was collecting in his investigation, which showed significant misconduct by BLM supervisors. Love and the other supervisors seized it, took it away from him. Okay? And that's another reason why he had to go outside of his chain of command to make these complaints. He also talks about more cover-ups by the BLM about what was really happening. He doesn't mention any specifics there, he just says they were. So his intent in this thing was, you know, I was going to be called into court and be able to talk about these things, but now, you know, and having had his notes taken away from him, he's having to recall a lot of this from memory. He does mention on page 8, that last thing I just talked about was on page 7. On page 8, he talks about Dan Love's kill book. He brags in the kill book about taking out Dr. Red, I think that was his name, and several others. Okay, of course, Dr. Red committed suicide, but Dan Love attributes that to his trophy. Okay, and it also mentions back towards, like I said before, the agents saying that they're going to, you know, shoot these protesters as they come up, and they had identified who they were going to shoot. And we saw that on some of, as a matter of fact, he brings it out in here on some of the leaked, what do they call those cams? Body cams, you know, that some of the BLM people were wearing. One guy was, or one BLM agent turned his off, which is against policy. Okay, but you can hear them talking about that, and those discussions about who they were going to shoot, who they were going to hit first, second, third, all of that. That was leaked by somebody, you know, within the agency. So there probably are multiple whistleblowers. On page 8 also, he says that Stephen Meyer, he's the U.S. attorney, that's the head prosecutor, was aware of BLM misconduct, but had the attitude of, listen to this, folks, don't ask, don't tell. This isn't justice, ladies and gentlemen. This is cronyism. This is criminal conspiracy to railroad some innocent people, okay? Because they have a requirement to find exculpatory evidence and especially provide it to the defense, which they didn't want to do. He says that Meyer consciously ignored evidence that would have exonerated the accused. And he also covered up the misconduct. He says that on page 8. On page 8 also, he says that Wooten was a victim of whistleblower retaliation by the BLM. No surprise there, right? So they already know who he is my point. On page 9, he also says that Meyer also misrepresented facts about government snipers. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. There it is right there. He even describes in detail one of the snipers, his rifle and its specs. Okay, he actually describes it in detail, so there's no question what it is. And then he goes on to talk about some of the 223 weapons that were being used for sniping, and that they had been practicing on that range there. It's 1,000 meters. Okay, it was all there, just like we found it. On page 10, there's more information on suppression of exculpatory evidence. In other words, evidence that would have exonerated the defendants, at least on some of the charges, if not entirely. Okay. On page 10 also, it says that Love followed only a part of the court order. He only followed it in part. He was allowed to do the cattle roundup, okay? But that's not all he did, is what the point is here, okay? He destroyed property. He allowed his agents to do arrests which were not legal. The use of force, the killing of cattle and the burying of them, all of these other things is what he's alluding to there, okay? He says on page 11 that Love escalated the entire situation to the April 12th standoff by design. There it is. This was by design. And if you remember, Gillespie had said that they were going to leave. Gillespie knew, because he had brought his MRAP down there. He had brought a big paddy wagon. They had their Gillespie's not innocent in this. He may not have fully realized what he was into, but he's not innocent. And Lombardo, too, for that matter. Okay, he also says on page 11 that exculpatory evidence was not turned in to the U.S. Attorney's Office by the BLM. And he says that the BLM violated, he specifically says, use of force requirements. They failed to adhere to the law, and they destroyed evidence. Pretty crazy. Okay. Let's see if I have anything else. The rest of it was kind of a reiteration of all of that, with some exceptions. On page 12, this is where he does say that, many of the protesters did violate laws, and I kind of talked about that, okay? Probably primarily to do with the weapons, and he also mentions the I-15 shutdown. Well, they didn't do that on purpose. That happened because the BLM had decided to set up that enfilade tactical setup right there at I-15. So really, if they hadn't done that, then the protesters probably would have moved up closer to the corrals, which was at least another, from where the I-15 was, it was probably at least another, I'm going to guess quarter mile, half a mile at least. So really the whole thing happened at I-15 because the BLM had set up there rather than back where they should have. Okay, so that's really their fault. He doesn't say that. He says that, the protesters caused a shutdown, but in reality they didn't. And I think that's, I would argue that certainly. He does say also that on page 12 that Cliven, he felt that Cliven didn't adequately use the court system to resolve these issues. But, he doesn't go into the fact that Cliven had been fighting this thing for, since the early 90s. And that he couldn't get redress of grievance, that his land rights, his water rights, and all those things were totally ignored by the BLM and by the court system. Because it's a railroad. It was done to help Hillary, and he's not going to say that in here. It was done to help Hillary and Reid and all those people to, rape the American people is really what it was about. On page 13, he again says, he mentions gross misconduct by the senior BLM management in all of this. On page 15, he gives kind of another reason why he went with this exposure, with this whistleblowing. He says that as a law enforcement officer, he can't allow injustices, cover-ups, half-truths, and skewed narratives. I have a lot of respect for this guy. This is what I've been asking federal, all law enforcement officers, all people in agencies, all bureaucrats to do. To not go along to get along, because this is supposed to be our country, okay? They serve us. They're our employees. It's not the other way around. And he also mentions again that the BLM supervisor seized his investigative notes, and so he had to recall a lot of this from memory. And they seized the investigative notes because, of course, he was talking about BLM misconduct. Okay, so that's kind of the summary of the whole thing. I think that'll put to rest a lot of the arguments we were having the other day. And there's more coming. I don't know how extensive it'll be, but I think we're seeing the tip of the iceberg, because this will get other people interested in, coming forward as well. So I think we're going to look forward to that. Gee, we've done this in less than a half an hour. So again, after I put this up, I will put, and it'll take some time to process. You'll see it up there before I get the information put in the description box, but it'll give you the link to Sherry Diwali's Redoubt News interview, okay, where this is all gone over with by Washington State Representative Matt Shea. All right, so let me see if there's anything else I need to bring up. I would give you, I would post a copy of the document, but it'll be too hard. I think it'll probably be on Redoubt News eventually, or other places. I think it'll probably show up. It's not redacted too badly. There are a few redactions on it, but by and large, it looks pretty open. Okay, so I think you'll be like that. I think you'll like that. All right, let's see. He admits without saying it that Dan Love was doing this in a militaristic fashion, and he really did want to have a lot of violence because that's his nature. I mean, who takes pictures of their feces and their girlfriend's vagina and passes it out to the office? Who does that kind of thing? And he did similar stuff at Burning Man, and he took evidence and he gave evidence away as gifts. I mean, the guy's, and then the way he set up, if he was Special Forces in the past, as I said yesterday, and he set up his people in enfilade, which would have been devastating. If that had gone to a shooting fight, oh yeah, there would have been losses on both sides, but those guys out in that enfilade fire would have been destroyed, absolutely. And I said that, before. So Dan Love has some problems. He wanted to have a bloodbath there. And Sheriff Gillespie, instead of protecting his people, I don't mean just his deputies, I mean the people that are his constituents and the people that were there in his county visiting, he failed in his job. Okay, he did. And so did Lombardo, who was the undersheriff. The only guy that was really a hero that day in the sheriff's office was, as I said yesterday, Sheriff Roberts. Okay. All right, let's take a look and see what we've got here. Anybody want to ask some questions? He said he owned the director. So yeah, you must have read it. Yeah, I didn't want to bring that up. Why did he say he owned the director of the? Do you remember what he said? I'll just tell you. And I don't think this is literal. I don't think it was literal, but he said Dan Love owned this director because Dan Love knew where the director buried the prostitute's body. I don't think that. I think that was a euphemism. Okay, I don't think that was really what happened. Let's hope not. But with these dirty bastards, who knows? Maybe that did happen. I don't know. Terrible. I could tell you some stories about a lot of those people that get killed, a lot of those women that are killed, and the news says that they're prostitutes when in fact they're not. Okay, they've either been human trafficked and tried to fight it, or they were agents. They were undercover agents, and then they're killed so that they can't, tell their tale. Okay. Where is Dan Love at the moment? No, I don't know. Apparently he did, I guess, testify, or is set to testify, or did. I haven't followed what's been going on in the court that close, and I apologize for that. Roy, do you check your Gab account? Not as often as I should, I'm sorry. I'll try to remember to do that. But I've been really busy. This isn't the only thing I've been doing. We've been gathering information. I don't know if I can go any deeper than that, okay? We've been really busy because we're trying to make sure that Trump isn't unseated by these unlawful, corrupt people, okay? So there's a lot going on behind the scenes. All right, I'll just leave it at that. Let me see what else there is. Yeah, you mean, let me back that down. I want to see what that says. Sorry to stick my finger up here now. Somebody said something about somebody being suicided. Let me see who that is. Oh, it's gone. I don't know what that was. I think they were worried about Wooten, that he might be suicided. But see, they already know who he is. It's not like we're revealing who he is. That's already out, like I said. So it's not going to be because anything that Representative Shea did, or anybody who's talking about Sherry Diwali, the stuff that we're doing here. No, it's all gotten past that. Let me see here. Truth is down the drain, boy, and that's what Matt Shea talks about. He talks about how corrupt the agencies are and that they've really turned on the American people. Fox News just reported UN troops on the streets of Chicago. Fox News did that, Nat? See, things are really crazy stuff is going on. Crazy stuff. I'm surprised that UN troops there. See, that's wrong in my estimation. Even if Trump agreed with it, that's wrong. But that's something else for us to do. Q posts on 8chan have been compromised. I wouldn't doubt that, And I've been warning people that was going to happen. They did it on 4chan, and everybody said, well, they won't be able to do it on 8chan. Hey, they can do it anywhere. That's why you have codes that change frequently, authentication codes and those things. But frankly, in my opinion, all of the Q stuff, by and large, that we have, we've got enough. Now it's up to the administration. It's up to these people that are warring against the corrupt factions in the government to start showing us in real time. I don't want to be talking about codes and veiled language anymore. We're really at a point where we should be past that, and I think we're seeing it. I do think we're seeing it. Yeah, BLM agents are sworn peace officers. That's true. So they're supposed to abide by what? The Constitution of the United States, the policies, the regulations, et cetera, et cetera. But they're not law enforcement officers. For instance, most police officers don't consider highway patrol to be real cops. They just don't, okay? Because it really isn't the same thing. And the BLM people, they're what? Smokey bears with automatic weapons now? Really? For what purpose? All of that thing with Bundy should have been settled in a court. And if he didn't want to take his cattle off the land, which he shouldn't have been required to do anyway, because that was all nonsense. That was all, Harry Reid manufactured, and the government said he owed back grazing fees. Well, that's also up for argument. And he was fighting it all that time. But if the government really thought they had a reason to do it, they should have just gone in his bank account, right? That's what they usually do. But no. Again, Dan Love wanted a show of force. He wanted a militaristic escalation. He even said so. Okay, so and that's why and the same thing happened at Waco and at Ruby Ridge, and we have people in the government who aren't out there for our best interests. They're out there for their own. I don't know. As somebody's asking, do you think there will be a third trial? Well, frankly, I think that the Department of Justice at this point, Sessions, everybody, should just say, in the interest of justice, we're going to dismiss this and we're going to start all over. Not retry. I don't mean that. Start the process of negotiating with Bundy and finding out, where this thing should go. And Trump's kind of started down that path. Remember, in the campaign, he said that there's a problem with the BLM. He even mentioned them. And at this point, he's taken. Obama tried to sign on more land into the barriers area and into the Escalante staircase area, and Trump reversed that. And some people were worried. Oh, he's exposing the Indian relics lands. No, he's not. Obama had used the Antiquities Act you might have a 100 square inch or 100 square foot area where there's some Indian artifacts, and yeah, it's got to be protected maybe at a reasonable distance. But he was using that, Obama, to take thousands and even millions of acres, okay, and Trump reversed that, and that's the right thing to do. I think Dan Love's in a lot of trouble, okay. When all of this finally is washed through, there's going to be some real interesting. Yeah, sir, Chicago major requesting UN troops in Chicago. Chicago. Oh, mayor. Chicago mayor. So the mayor is requesting UN troops? Rahm is an ass. He's an ass. Don't forget the links. I won't. And it's really only one. It's to Sherry Duvall's Readout News interview with. It's on Facebook, okay? And like I said, that'll probably be up on Readout News in a few days, I would think. Let's see what else we have here. Sessions needs to go. Send in Trey Gowdy. I don't know. Trey Gowdy's he's an embellished speaker. He doesn't do much action either. He sounds real good, but I don't see him doing much. Not really. Yeah, again, Sean, I just heard it on here. Something about UN coming into Chicago, apparently being invited by the mayor. I'll look at that, but I I got a lot on my plate here, but I will have to look at that. 10 minutes ago, huh, Nat? Okay. Damn, Fox is breaking the paradigm. Yeah, let's see. Fake news. What's fake news? Spirit of Truth. I'm not sure I know what you're referring to. I'm sorry. I must have missed what you're doing there. Well, no. Okay, Jeff, you're saying it's a shame it took Wooten so long to step up. You got to understand how evil this thing is in the government, okay? I'm not saying that somebody should take too much consideration in that when so many people stand to be hurt, okay? I understand what you're saying. But in fact, Wooten was trying to do this a year ago. Well, I'm sorry. Back in 2014, he was trying to get this information up his chain of command, and they kept denying him, okay? So he acted correctly. And then finally, with all this stuff that's going on in the courts, he sees how the U.S. attorney, the BLM, the FBI, the U.S. attorney are all suppressing evidence, okay? Then he took it to the next level, and that was the right thing to do. He did it the right way. I'm not going to find fault with him with the way he did it. Let's see. Let's see. Disgruntled GI has matched. She's interview only 6 views. Get it spread far. Keep Shea Wooten safe. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. The judge isn't Obama, and Navarro was put in there by Obama. Yeah. Sure enough. Actually, Harry Reid. It was actually Harry Reid that got her in there. Yeah, the representative Congress, because somebody said he was a child abuser or something, and he should have fought that, but I can kind of understand his position. Okay, let's see if there's anything else here. Yeah, Dan Johnson committed suicide. Kate Brown, you're asking about the governor of Oregon. I don't know what they're going to do with her. She's a bad apple. There's no doubt about it. She's helped to cover up, along with the U.S. Attorney's Office there, the FBI, the BLM, this whole thing with Uranium One. Look what they did to the Hammonds. I'm sure she's on Trump's radar. I'm sure she is. Okay. Dan Love running for president with his feces, pictures of feces and his girlfriends. Yeah, right. Okay. They pre-planned Lavoie's murder. Absolutely. Yeah, that was a hit. And I'll use the word, that was a hit. And that same kind of thing was designed at the Bundy Ranch as well. And afterwards, because I ran into these people, and I told you about it the other night, that, I actually had to go up and approach them on a couple of occasions. There was no doubt who they were. Like I said, I would have taken a couple of them to dinner, but that's another story altogether. Are we going to have a civil war? I don't know. But you need to, what have I always said? You need to be ready. I mean, even the animals know to store up food. Prep, pray, and stay out of the way, man. I mean, it's at least for 2 weeks, and I'd have more than that if you can. But that's a minimum. When will Obama go down? You got to be careful with a former president. I mean, there's no doubt now. Jerome Corsi came out the other day and said, that they now have the evidence of the CIA messing with this birth certificate, that it is a forgery. And there's more to Obama than that. But we're really here to talk about the Bundys, okay? I don't want to get off on too many other tangents. Franklin cover-up, I was involved in part of that investigation. I think I've mentioned that before. Yeah, that's right, Jody. You don't request the UN, you request the National Guard. That's right. That's exactly right. Okay, well, we don't have as many people here tonight, and frankly, I'm worn out. Okay, we're not doing anything really particular. I just wanted to get that information out. Take me probably half an hour to process this, upload it so that it's a permanent video on YouTube. And as soon as it's on there and I can access it, I will put the link into the Facebook page of Readout News. Okay, everybody? Stand by. There'll be more information on these leaks, on these whistleblowers, probably across the government. We're going to start seeing a lot of that. Well, actually, we already are. Okay, so keep your eyes on the horizon. Keep your ears to the ground. Pay attention. Be aware. Be watchful. And prep, pray, and stay out of the way. And Merry Christmas. All right? Out here.